At the birthday banquet, my husband's secretary rose on tiptoe, leaned into his lips, and cooed that she had frosting on her mouth. Who knew he'd wrap an arm around her and lick it clean with his own tongue? When we got home, I asked for a divorce straight out. He looked at me, annoyed. Over a little frosting? You used your mouth, I corrected, calm. Serena, can licking frosting kill someone? You turn a sesame seed into a thunderstorm. Fine, divorce it is, just don't come crying later begging me to take you back. He was certain I couldn't live without him and would never actually leave. But how could he know? Even the deepest feeling erodes when it's trampled again and again. Let whoever wants this garbage marriage haul it away. Before we go on, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. That night I told my parents I was getting divorced. They were startled but backed my decision. Sure enough, from that day on Jason started serving me the silent treatment again. He blocked my calls, deleted our WhatsApp thread, even scrubbed me from every gaming friend list. It was his standard procedure for handling us. He figured I'd cave like always and come crawling. But this time I stared at the add friend button and never pressed it. A week later the Slack channel pinged, Jordan's hosting tonight to celebrate the project win, attendance mandatory, no excuses. I didn't want to make things awkward for co-workers, so I went. I stepped into the private dining room and spotted Jason at the head of the table at once. Miranda was practically glued to his side. She was murmuring in his ear, lips brushing his skin. The intimacy between them hung so thick no outsider could break through. Whatever she said, they both laughed softly, their pose an eyeful. I looked away and sat in a corner. Co-workers lined up to hand Jason gifts and congratulations. I kept my head down and sipped my drink. Not long after, a shadow fell over me. I glanced up into Jason's flawless face. But his eyes held the usual impatience. Serena, where's my gift? In the past I would have started plotting his present months ahead. The most elaborate year, I spent 8 months hand-building the spaceship from his favorite film, Interstellar. When the lights came on, he hugged me and said we'd stay together forever, just like in the movie. I believed him then. I didn't know his forever wouldn't last 5 years. Forgot, I answered, flat. That answer obviously stung. His voice flared. Serena, are you done yet? A whole week of drama over nothing, still not tired of acting out? I stared at the faint smear of Miranda's lipstick at the corner of his mouth and felt only disgust. I'm not acting out. The divorce is real. His face froze, but when Miranda slipped her hand into his he steadied. Serena, don't get it twisted, Miranda chirped, voice syrupy. Jason doesn't like that pastry. I only helped finish it so it wouldn't go to waste. If sis hates me so much, I'll stay away from the table next time and eat leftovers after everyone's done. With that, Jason's heart ached for her. Nonsense. You belong at the table. The one who shouldn't be here is the princess who thinks the universe revolves around her mood. Jason, don't blame sis, Miranda sighed, turning to me all concern. Serena, honestly, you're overdoing it this time. Jason hasn't slept properly for days. You two might clash, but you're still husband and wife, cut each other some slack. I flung off the hand she reached toward my shoulder. Miranda, know what I admire most? How you can snatch someone's husband and still play the understanding angel. Miranda's smile cracked. Jason exploded. Serena, watch your mouth. How dare you smear Miranda? Smear her. Then explain why every gift you gave me shows up on her wrist a week later. Why does every fight detail float around the break room by morning? And how come she knows about the mole on your chest? Shut up. A slap cracked across my face. My ears rang. Around the room eyes glittered, pity, ridicule. When the buzzing faded I heard Jason shout, all right, Serena, tough girl. Starting now, whoever drops a comment on the photo of Miranda and me, get 520 of them and I'll divorce you and make it official with her. He yanked Miranda and stalked out. As they passed, Miranda shot me a victory glare that needed no words. The crowd thinned. Mockery drifted over. Pushed it too far, didn't you? Too late to cry. Someone else urged, go apologize quick, or Jordan really won't want you. I knew this was another of his moves to force me to beg for mercy. But this time, I chose not to understand. The private room emptied fast. I drained what was left in my glass. The burn stung my eyes. 20 plus years of love, and this is how it can end ugly. Fine. Out west the sky is wide and authority remote. Back home, I began to pack. Jason and I grew up together, his threaded through most of my life. Item after item surfaced. In kindergarten he got his first little red star and raced to give it to me. Serena, the best goes to you. The first time I got my period I was terrified I was dying and, red-faced, gave him my last words. He laughed himself helpless, bought me pads, and we Googled how to use them together. Later, long distance through college, I saved a thick stack of train tickets, over 200,000 kilometers of hurrying to each other. And the custom wedding bands we designed. When he slid mine on he said, "Serena, you're roped to me for life." In the end, he let go first. When Miranda joined the firm, her probation report was a mess utterly unremarkable. Somehow Jason promoted her anyway, all the way to his secretary. The first clue something was off was seeing a knockoff of my unique wedding band on her finger. At first he still offered explanations, later, only irritation. I took one step back and he marched Miranda 10 steps forward. Office dinners ordered to her tastes. She worked 3 days a week yet pocketed the top bonus. She dumped her tasks on me, and he kept comparing us, calling her more sensible, more thoughtful. It wasn't until that afternoon tea, when she drank from his bubble tea, using the same straw. He took it back and kept sipping as if nothing had happened. In that instant, it felt as if someone had clamped a fist around my heart. Later, Miranda's boundary crossing escalated. She spread sunscreen on him herself, swapped out the lunch I'd made, and on our anniversary claimed a fever so he called the whole celebration off. Every time I lost my temper Jason said, "Serena, your mind is filthy, so everything looks filthy to you. We're nothing more than friends, so pure that you took her to a spouse-only gala in my place." When I asked, he blamed me. "I'm just helping Miranda network, why are you so petty?" That time we iced each other out the longest, so long I thought it was really over. Yet a single text, "Baby, my head hurts," shattered me all over again. Round and round, until I was exhausted. I tossed the ring box into the trash. Deep in the drawer still lay the apology note he'd written at 20 for not replying to my text fast enough. Back then he'd feared my anger. Now, he only feared Miranda might feel wronged. I shredded the note and threw it away with the rest. When the clutter was gone the apartment felt hollow, and so did I. The Slack channel wouldn't stop pinging. Photos showed Miranda spoon-feeding him cake while co-workers gushed. Jordan and Miranda, brains, beauty, perfect match. Find a wife like Miranda, someone who actually gets you. I'd seen enough. I called Attorney Walsh and pulled every dollar I'd ever put into Vance. The next morning I came to collect my personal things. Miranda was perched on my desk in a silk slip dress. My belongings had been crammed into a cardboard box by the door. Jason had had this corner office custom built for me. Everyone in the firm knew it was my territory. I called the police on the spot. In the mediation room Miranda sobbed. "I was only grabbing a file for Jason." "Serena, is this really necessary? It's my office, did you ask? I didn't steal anything." "Taking without asking is stealing." Her face changed. She burst into tears. I turned. Jason stood in the doorway, livid. "Jason." Miranda dove into his arms. "Serena insists I was stealing, but Jason, you give me so much, why would I want her things?" Jason flashed the officer an appeasing grin. "Misunderstanding, all family here." Then he spun on me. "Serena, when did you become this vicious? Bullying a subordinate to feel powerful? Apologize to Miranda now." Miranda whimpered, "Don't blame Serena, it's my fault. I'll go to jail if it helps, just please don't fight." Jason squeezed her hand, then barked at me. "Hear that? Miranda's defending you. This office belongs to Vance, I hold the deed. Keep pushing and I'll sue you for defamation." He led Miranda out, tossing over his shoulder, "Comment counts at 515. Stay silent much longer and I'll really trade you in." Seeing the triumph glinting in Miranda's eyes, I finally got it. Crude tactics work when the boss allows them. Only I kept crawling back to patch things up. He'd stopped loving me long ago. This circus was his way of driving me out. The moment that sank in, the last ember of love for Jason died. In the days before I left for the frontier, a parade of rubbernecking co-workers messaged me. 518. Beg for mercy or your man's gone. Wow, holding out guilty conscience 'cause you can't beat Miranda? I blocked and deleted every last one. At comment 519 the entire firm went quiet. No one dared post the final line. Jason's face darkened to thunder. Just as he swallowed his rage to plot the next move, a subordinate burst through the door shouting, "Jordan." 520, someone commented. Jason's office door slammed open. Junior stumbled in gasping. Fury wrestled with panic across Jason's face. He pinned the subordinate with a glare and growled, "Who? Name." The subordinate's hand shook as he offered his phone. The avatar beside comment number 520 was the selfie we'd taken at City Hall the day we got our license. The handle read simply, "Serena." The message was a single line, "Jordan, wishing you and Ms. Lane forever, divorce papers signed." The floor fell dead silent. Jason lifted his eyes from the screen, scanning for me like a blade. I rose from my cubicle holding the still-warm printout of our divorce agreement and met his gaze without a tremor. His pupils contracted, every drop of color left his cheeks. He had imagined every reaction except this, me handing him the blade that would sever us for good. Not an olive branch, an open declaration of war, delivered through his favorite weapon, smacking his pride across the face. I ended the farce myself and took his superiority down with it. "Serena." Jaw locked, he stalked toward me, rage crackling around him. "You planned this? You think you can humiliate me? Humiliate?" I let out a soft laugh and held out the papers. "I'm granting your wish. 520 comments, your rule. Condition met. Sign, Jordan." He didn't take them. His stare bored into me, turbulent with fury, shock, even hurt, as if the betrayer felt betrayed. "Pathetic. Jason." Miranda glided in, eyes rimmed red, pressing to his side. "Serena, how could you?" Jason spoke in anger. "Why make it public? You want the world laughing at him?" Her words were gasoline. Jason's temper ignited. He snatched the agreement and shredded it in front of me, ribbons drifting like snow over my hair and shoulders. "Divorce," he sneered, savage satisfaction in every syllable. "Keep dreaming. This marriage stands. Walk if you want, but you leave with nothing. Your Vance equity, the condos, the cars, every cent stays. I'll reduce you to zero, then we'll see how loud you bark." He thought this would scare me, make me compromise to protect the assets the way I used to. I stared at his face, twisted by rage, and only felt a stranger. I lifted a hand and brushed the confetti from my shoulder, the gesture as calm as flicking off a speck of dust. "Jason," I said, meeting his eyes, each word sharp and steady, "you forgot the money I put into Vance was mine alone before the wedding. However many times it's multiplied, my lawyer will tally every cent. As for the house and the cars, I don't care, those things were never as valuable as staying clean." I looked at neither of them again, turned, and walked toward my corner office. He stayed frozen, apparently unable to believe I could be this decisive. Miranda, still in his arms, wore a face of panicked dread. What she wanted was a glossy wedding to the CEO of Vance Group, not a hollowed-out shell hemorrhaging most of its capital. She clutched Jason's sleeve, tears on cue. "Jason, it's all my fault, I shouldn't have put you in this spot. Serena, please rethink this, don't do it because of me." I stepped inside, shut the door, and cut off every sound from outside. Sunlight slanted through the blinds, striping the floor. I drew a slow breath and dialed my lawyer. "Attorney Walsh, file the papers." A brief silence, then a calm got it. I ended the call and looked out the window. This war had only just begun. What Jason tore up wasn't the agreement, it was the last chance we had left. Jason's retaliation arrived faster, and more childishly, than I'd expected. Next morning every debit and credit card in my name was frozen. He had pulled strings, claiming marital asset dispute, jamming my cash flow. He thought the chokehold would bring me to beg for mercy. Around the office, rumors bloomed overnight. I'd cheated, funneled money, been caught by Jason, and was now divorcing out of shame. The tales were vivid, complete with the phantom lover's name and resume. All Miranda's handiwork. Only she could gift-wrap sleaze so convincingly. I ignored it. My ticket west was booked, anything vital had been shipped ahead. As for cash, this little stunt wasn't going to bankrupt me. The supplementary card Mom gave me was beyond Jason's reach. My final visit to the firm was to finish the capital withdrawal. Attorney Walsh had formally submitted documents to the board. Vance stock slid 7% on the news. I waited in the boardroom for signatures. Jason strode in, face dark, Miranda equally grim behind him. "Serena, do you have to torch everything?" He slammed a report on the desk, an audit screaming about the broken capital chain, the same project we'd once toasted. "I invested because you begged me to. You said it was your turning point," I said evenly. "I'm only taking back what's mine. How is that torching? We're husband and wife." "Your money is my money," he blurted, then realized how that sounded and turned even uglier. "Not anymore." I slid the signed copies toward him. "Jordan, the moment you let the whole company watch me burn, we stopped being anything." His chest heaved while he searched my face for a trace of regret. There was none. My heart had died at the birthday party, under the slap, inside the farce of 520 comments. "Fine, perfect." He laughed in fury, scrawled his name, "Serena, you'll regret this. Without the Mrs. Vance label, you're nothing." I lifted my copy and stood. "Wait." Miranda stepped forward, smile triumphant, belly thrust out slightly. "Serena, forgot to mention I'm pregnant. Jason's baby. We're getting married. I hope you'll come." I looked at her, then at his silent assent, and felt lighter than I had in years. The boulder in my chest was finally gone. "Really? Congratulations." I smiled, sincere. "But Jordan may not have told you how wide the funding gap is now that I've walked. Your baby should start praying it isn't born carrying 8-figure debt." Miranda's face drained white. Jason seized my wrist so hard my bones ground. "What the hell do you mean?" I wrenched free, meeting his panicked eyes. "Jason, whether you or your company lives or dies is no longer my problem." I walked out and never looked back. Behind me Miranda's tear-choked shrieks and Jason's muffled roars sounded like last century's requiem fading into the distance. Just before the cabin lights dimmed on my westbound flight, a college roommate texted, "Serena, check the business wires, Vance just imploded." I hesitated, then tapped the link. The headline blared, "Vance Group core funding yanked, faces massive default, founder Jason face unlimited personal liability." The article explained my withdrawn capital had been the keystone. Overconfident, Jason had dipped into it before follow-on financing closed. Once the cash vanished, the project collapsed. Partners fled, banks called loans, suppliers camped at the door. The glittering edifice of Vance Group teetered overnight. Through the window the cloudscape rolled on, no ripple in my heart, no taste of revenge. I'd simply reclaimed what was always mine. His own arrogance did the rest. The plane touched down under high plateau sunshine, sharp and clear. I rented an SUV, pointed it toward the country I'd dreamed of, and drove. No destination, wherever the road stopped, that would be home. The first week I braked at a Tibetan village. The sky was rinsed cobalt, the villagers' smiles untouched by the world I'd left behind. I was staying in a homestay, spending my days learning to brew butter tea with the landlady or driving out to the nearby snow mountains and lakes. Little by little I broke the habit of checking my phone every other minute, and Jason and that whole mess rarely crossed my mind anymore. Then, one night, an unknown number flashed on the screen. I picked up. A long silence hung on the line, broken only by the sound of someone trying to steady ragged breathing. "Serena." It was Jason. His voice was hoarse, exhausted, stripped of its old self-assurance. "Something you need?" I asked, as calmly as if I were speaking to a stranger. My indifference stung him. He hesitated before he spoke. "Where are you?" "Someplace you'll never find." "You hate me that much?" A tremor ran through his words. "Serena, I know I screwed up. I was an idiot, blinded by greed. Come back, okay? Just come back and reinvest the money, anything you want. I'll cut Miranda off tomorrow, I'll kick her and the baby out. Let's go back to the way we were, please? Back to the way we were." I almost laughed out loud. "Jason, weren't you oh so in love with her, so in love you were ready to divorce me? Didn't you call her the light of your life? And now that your firm is on life support, that light can't brighten your bottom line? I never loved her. You're the one I've always loved, she was just a fling." "Enough." I cut him off. Jason, the only person you've ever loved is yourself. The only reason you're calling is because I'm the last card you have left to play. In your eyes, Serena, I'm the spare tire you keep around, summon when convenient, toss when you're done. He said nothing for a long while. Serena, he finally managed, voice cracking, for the sake of 20 years together, help me one last time. 20 years. I echoed softly, lifting my gaze to the window. The Milky Way glittered above, its stars laid out like diamonds. I thought of the spaceship model that had taken me 8 months to build, of the night he promised we'd stay together forever. Jason, every bit of those 20 years died the moment you sided with Miranda again and again, the night you slapped me for her, the instant you gambled our marriage away. You killed it when you tore up the divorce papers and scattered the pieces. I ended the call and blocked his number. Night wind slipped through the window, carrying the scent of snowcaps. Suddenly I felt utterly, deliciously free. The ring that had caged me had finally crumbled into dust. I left the mountain village and kept heading west. I crossed empty stretches of desert, watched perfect crimson disks sink behind dunes, and saw the brightest stars the sky keeps in reserve. I began teaching myself photography, trapping every landscape I met, every heartbeat of a moment, inside the camera. My social feeds, once wallpapered with Jason, became a gallery of wild mountains and sunlit smiles. I was no longer Mrs. Vance, I was simply Serena. Now and then a friend still slipped me scraps of news about Jason. Vance Holdings was liquidated in the end. Mountains of debt swallowed him, his mansions, his sports cars all went to auction. The man who thought gravity answered to him alone fell overnight from the clouds to the mud. And Miranda, the moment she saw Vance flatline, marched to the clinic, aborted the baby, and vanished with Jason's last wad of cash. Some say she resurfaced in another city, others swear she's already latched onto a new protector. She never loved Jason, she loved what glittered around him. When the glitter turned to dust, of course she outran everyone. Word is Jason cracked, drank himself senseless in some dive until the bartender found him murmuring my name over and over. A friend repeated all this like a punchline, asking if I felt sweet revenge. I only shook my head. I felt neither glee nor pity. Whatever wreckage his life has become stopped being my concern the day I walked away. We were two lines intersecting once, then continuing in opposite directions, never to meet again. One afternoon I was photographing migrating birds at Qinghai Lake when a man in a baseball cap stepped beside me. Quinn. I turned. His face was unfamiliar. I'm Xavier, a documentary director. He offered a gentle smile and his hand. I've followed your photography for a long time, love the raw life in every frame. I'm prepping a frontier landscape documentary. Would you consider joining us as director of photography? I stared, stunned. Never in my life had I imagined a hobby might earn a professional invitation. I'm probably not qualified. You are, Xavier said, eyes steady. Your images carry emotion and story, something even film school grads often miss. Our team needs that spark. I looked at the card he held out, then at the wide horizon in my lens, and felt the new world opening its arms. My life didn't have to be a graveyard of love, it could hold dreams, careers, an ocean of stars. I took the card and smiled. All right, I'm in. In that instant, wind lifted my hair off the lake, sunlight pouring across my face, warm and bright. I knew Serena's real beginning was that very breath. Life after joining Xavier turned busy, crowded, satisfying. We loaded the Jeep, hauled gear, and crisscrossed the entire northwest frontier. From the snow line of the Chilean peaks to the dunes of the Taklamakan, from Tibetan antelope on the Kekexili Plateau to the wind-sculpted yardangs of Lop Nur. The work was brutal. Cold camps, scant meals. Some dawns we waited on ridgelines at 10 below just to catch the first crimson sliver. Some afternoons we baked under a white sun for 7 straight hours for a single 15-second shot. Yet inside me lived a quiet, complete contentment. Each time a perfect frame locked into the sensor, the hardship alchemized into triumph. Xavier proved brilliant behind the monitor and easy on the trail, erudite, funny, obsessive about craft. We could quarrel over a shaft of light or the geometry of a horizon until our faces burned, then share a beer by the campfire minutes later, talking film and distant dreams until the coals dimmed. He never asked about my past, He only slipped a thick jacket around my shoulders when he caught me staring at the stars. The plateau temperature swings are brutal, don't catch cold. His voice was always gentle. I slowly grew used to that rhythm between us, simple, pure, no suspicion, no wounds. The documentary shoot lasted a full year. On the final day we lit a bonfire on the Gobeville Flats and threw a rap party. Everyone got wasted, singing, dancing, finally sprawled in sleeping bags under a riot of stars. Xavier sat beside me and handed over a cold beer. "What are you thinking?" he asked. That a year ago I never pictured living like this. I took a swallow. The icy liquid slid down my throat. Back then I thought my life orbited one man, my moods his to decide. And now, I said, looking at him, then at the sky overhead, smiling, my life belongs to me. Where I go, what I do, it's my call. Feels amazing. Xavier smiled too, his eyes bright in the firelight. "Serena, the first time I saw your photos online I knew you were different. The landscape looked like the star, but the real lead was you. You were talking to the world through your lens." My heart gave a quiet flutter. He hesitated, nervous, then pushed on. "Post-production will take us back to Beijing for 6 months. After that my next project is the Aurora Borealis. Would you come with me?" He didn't say be my photographer, didn't say be my girlfriend, just asked if I'd go see the next horizon with him. I met his eager gaze and didn't answer right away. Not because I was unsure, but because I was bidding farewell, saying goodbye, once and for all, to the girl who once begged for love and made it her everything. I lifted my beer can and tapped his. "Sure," I said, grinning. He blinked, then burst into bright laughter. The desert wind carried the last shadows of my past away. I knew I could finally stride toward whatever lay beyond. When *westbound notes premiered, it became an overnight phenomenon. We swept half a dozen domestic awards and even landed a foreign festival nomination. As director of photography, I started making a name for myself. At the awards gala, I wore a clean-lined gown, stepped on stage, and accepted the heavy trophy from the presenter. Under the spotlights, I caught Xavier's smiling eyes and the elated faces of our crew, my heart full. After the ceremony, I was backstage removing makeup, ready for the celebration, when a staffer handed me a note. "Casey, a gentleman outside says he's an old friend." I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was familiar, forceful strokes, yet the last line trembled. "I'm in the parking garage. Can we talk? Jason." I held the note, silent for a moment. In the end I went, not because I clung to the past, but to draw the final period. In a corner of the garage, Jason leaned against a beat-up second-hand car, smoking. He'd lost weight, looked haggard, hair unkempt, Sam in a cheap jacket that looked paper-thin against the winter wind. No trace of the once charismatic Jordan. When he saw me he stubbed the cigarette, straightened awkwardly. "Serena, you came." His voice was hoarse and dry. "What do you want?" I stopped several paces away, tone cool and flat. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and held it out. "This belongs to you." I didn't take it, I only glanced. It was the wedding band I'd thrown away. He'd actually fished it out of the trash. "I don't need it." His hand froze mid-air, face washed in bitterness. "Serena, I know nothing I say can fix it. After bankruptcy I really thought. I ruined us with my own hands. If I could turn back time, I swear, there's no rewind." I cut him off. "Jason, we both move forward." He lowered his head, shoulders shaking like a scolded child. "I watched your film, it was beautiful. You on that stage, glowing, more stunning than ever. Riley, I'm not here begging forgiveness." He lifted bloodshot eyes, clearer than I'd ever seen them. "I only wanted to say sorry to your face. And wish you happiness." With those words he seemed to spend the last of his strength. He set the ring box on the hood, gave me one long final look, then turned and walked, back curved, into the darkness. I watched him go, no call to stop him, no words. I knew this was the last time. Xavier appeared beside me, draped his suit jacket over my shoulders. "All done?" he asked. "Yeah, all done." I turned and smiled. He took my hand, squeezing tight. "Then let's go home. Let's go home." Side by side we headed toward the other end of the garage, where our car waited, our friends waited, and the promise of the Aurora waited. I glanced back once at the ring box left on the hood, a tiny footnote to the past under dim light. The wind carried the chill of a Beijing winter night, yet I felt warmer than ever, because I knew no person, no thing, could ever chain me again. My road lies among stars and oceans.
I waited for Lucas in the downpour for 3 hours and dialed 17 times. No one picked up. Worried sick about his safety, I braved the rain and went to his headquarters. What I saw was his childhood sweetheart curled in his arms in the back seat, cooing up at him. Refusing to believe it, I called one more time. Lucas finally answered, impatience thick in his voice. I'm swamped at the office. Find your own way home. I gave a bitter laugh and hung up. 3 months later, a photo of me shopping for wedding bands surfaced and landed on Lucas's phone. One of his buddies teased, "The heiress still can't quit you, looks like she's come to propose." Lucas idly spun his phone, a smug curve lifting his mouth. They had no clue the bands weren't meant for him, they were for his sworn enemy. Before we go on, subscribe to the channel and drop a comment telling us where you're listening. Sure. When the call ended, a hollow ache pulsed in my chest. I looked up just in time to see Lucas smiling as he tucked a stray lock behind Bella's ear. Bella popped up on her toes and kissed him. He didn't resist, still wearing that easy grin. Rain sluiced over me, and I couldn't tell tears from water. Then Bella glanced my way and flashed a sweet smile. I ignored her and slipped off before Lucas noticed. Back home I showered, changed, and checked my phone. Lucas had texted, "Working late tonight, don't wait up." I typed back, quiet and firm, "It's over." Lucas and I met in college. He was my senior. Tall, brilliant, and effortlessly gorgeous, the campus heartthrob. I chased him shamelessly for a full year before he finally said yes. I knew he had a little sister from childhood, but he'd sworn Bella meant nothing romantic, so I didn't worry and treated her like a kid sister too. I used to pack gourmet lunchboxes for Lucas. He always passed them to Bella. Still, he'd surprise me with the cupcakes I loved, the earrings I adored, the bracelet I wanted. If Bella fancied them, he'd coax me into handing them over. Later he'd buy me something else to make up for it. Eventually I couldn't tell if he loved me at all. We fought about Bella more than once, yet every time Lucas apologized. As soon as he whispered "I love you," my anger melted. Looking back, the signs were all there. The moment I hit send, I texted Dad. I agreed to the strategic alliance. His call came instantly. "Finally broken up with that boy?" "Yeah. We're done." Barely veiled glee colored his voice. "Good. Ever since you met him you've been love addicted, running yourself ragged." Where was the heiress in that? True, once kitchen shy, I'd mastered every recipe for Lucas. To fund his startup I twisted arms for capital, studied finance, served as his assistant. I'd given him everything. We chatted a little more before hanging up. I meant to pack, but the drenching had left me dizzy, so I crawled into bed. Lucas still hadn't shown by morning, so I called my chauffeur to haul my luggage. When I opened my phone, notifications exploded. Lucas had answered at last. "Fine by me, just don't come crying when you want me back." I ignored him and blocked his number. The rest were from Best, Luna. "You dumped Lucas? You've finally come to your senses." He just posted single again on Instagram. I gave her the short version and resumed packing. I surveyed the room. Strawberry-scented bears covered the bed and couch. My allergies hate plush toys, but Lucas gave them to me, so I displayed every one. When Bella visited, her eyes lit up. "Lucas, you remembered I love strawberry bears." "There's so many." The doorbell snapped me back. My chauffeur had arrived. I finished stuffing my bags, then tossed every photo, every memento of Lucas and me, into the trash. All those years of love finally bled dry. Time for a real goodbye. "Don't worry, Lucas, I won't cry for you again." When I reached home, Mom and Dad rushed out to meet me. A man stood with them, Julian, Lucas's lifelong rival. College onward they've clashed, Julian outshining Lucas at every turn. In class, on the field, now in business, Lucas always trailed. Back at headquarters Lucas would outbid him for waterfront parcels, snatch deals right from under him. I spent my days running those same errands, swiping plenty from Julian myself, so yeah, the first sight of him felt awkward. Mom clutched my hand, heart achy. "Oh sweetie, you've lost weight." Dad chimed in, "Out there doing more chores than our housekeeper, how could she not?" I pouted. "Dad, stop it." He pulled Julian forward. This is Julian, get acquainted. Soon we'll sit down and talk wedding details. Julian offered his hand, voice gentle. Looking forward to it, Olivia, may I call you that? The name colored my cheeks, no one but my parents ever used it. Lucas had stuck to my full name. When I asked him to try Olivia, he'd shrugged it off as too sappy, might look weak if anyone heard. Yet he always cooed Bella's pet name. Now I know, he just didn't want Bella upset. I shook Julian's hand. Of course. Nice to meet you, Mr. Vance. His lips curved. Julian is fine. I nodded dumbly. Dad beamed and said, Julian, you'll stay for dinner tonight. I looked up at him, tall, the sunset sharpening an already regal profile, his tailored suit putting Lucas to shame. I still couldn't fathom how Lucas had once dazzled me, and why Julian wanted this strategic alliance when he had countless options, especially since I'd swiped so many deals from him. Could he be here to get back at me for stealing his deal? Throughout the meal, Julian's eyes carried a look I couldn't quite name. Every few minutes he slid another bite onto my plate, even plucking out the scallions because he remembered I hated them. Honestly, it was the first time I'd felt anyone take care of me. Back when I was still with Lucas, he never once served me food. In fact, I cooked every single dinner. He even brought Bella over most nights. She loved scallion pancakes, so the moment she walked in I'd start frying them. The two of them would chatter away while I sat there like an outsider who'd crashed their date. Lucas kept piling food into Bella's bowl. Any stranger would have assumed she was the girlfriend. I was too deep in the fog to see how wrong the picture was. Dad beamed beside us. Well, looks like you two are hitting it off. Lucas chose that moment to speak. Mr. Sterling, would you let Olivia come help at my headquarters for a month? Dad glanced at me. I'm all for it, but let's hear what Olivia thinks. I lifted my eyes. Lucas was smiling right at me. I hesitated. What kind of help? Payback for snatching his deal? Olivia, how do you feel? I've always believed in your talent. The family had pushed me to study business. I'd disliked it, but I forced myself for Lucas's sake. I'm actually good at it. When I worked at his headquarters, I'd hidden my edge, terrified of bruising his ego. Lucas really isn't strong on the business side. This time I don't have to hold back. I nodded. Besides, the strategic alliance is basically sealed. A week of office time might even spark some chemistry. His mouth curved, voice low and smooth. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. I answered, okay. Next day at dawn he was waiting downstairs. I'd taken time with my appearance. Dusty pencil skirt yanked from the closet, little heels clicked on. When I was Lucas's doormat I never had a spare minute. Days were split between his spreadsheets and his laundry, plus cooking. Best had held, Olivia, you're the Sterling heiress, playing housekeeper? Love-addicted terminal stage. I'd only laughed. I just want to ease his load. Now I want to slap that version of me. Julian met me at the car, opened the passenger door like a gentleman and shielded my head. After sliding in he twisted back to buckle my seatbelt. I stopped breathing. His gaze brushed mine before he faced forward again. The closeness left my heart skipping. I checked my phone. Luna had spammed me. Lucas says you're throwing a tantrum and will crawl back in days. So is this just a spat? I snapped a photo of the car interior and sent it. Officially broken up. Riding with fiancé. She fired back a string of shocked emojis. Get it, girl? When do I meet the fiancé? P.S. Lucas and his entourage have a wager running. Say you'll beg to reconcile. He's about to lose big. I almost laughed out loud. Don't worry, no reruns this time. The split hurt less than I'd feared. Mostly I felt lighter. Luna and I set a date to catch up. Who's making you grin? Julian asked. I tucked hair behind my ear. Best. Curiosity ate at me. At last I said, Julian, why me? He looked puzzled. You mean the alliance or the job? I flushed. Can I ask about both? He lifted a brow, pulled a photo from the console and handed it over. It was Julian in college, with me in the background. I've liked you since then. Snuck that shot. I stared, confusion mixing with the sudden heat in the air. Why me? Back then every neuron I owned was trained on Lucas. I'd barely noticed Julian existed. All I'd known came from Lucas's rants, so I'd disliked him by reflex. Campus gossip branded me Lucas's lapdog. How could anyone like that girl? At the curb Julian killed the engine, unclipped his belt and turned, eyes soft. Maybe your grit, maybe the day I saw you talking to a stray cat. Who knows? Love doesn't need a reason. He leaned closer, breath tickling my ear. My heart stalled, heat flooded my cheeks. I shoved the door open and climbed out, wobbling on heels I hadn't worn in years. Julian caught my hand before I stumbled. Inside the lobby, every employee stared at our linked fingers. I muttered, "This feels too public." His arm circled my shoulders. "You're my fiancé, public is the point." My ears burned until we reached his office. I exhaled. What should I tackle? He passed me a pitch deck. "Help me steal a deal." I shot him a look. Was that a jab? I flipped it open. Lucas's pet project. I'd prepped to win it myself a week ago. The tables had turned. Would he implode when he found out? I lifted my gaze. "Meetings today?" He nodded. "We leave soon." Then he lifted a shoebox from under the desk and nudged me onto the sofa. "Your heels are blistered, switch to flats." I murmured thanks, cheeks warm. When he knelt to unbuckle my shoe, I waved him off. I can do it myself." I took the shoes, slipped them on quickly, and when I looked up, Julian was staring at me so intently that, for a heartbeat, I caught a dark tide swirling behind his eyes. I didn't dare think any deeper about it. When we arrived, I actually saw Lucas there too. I froze in the doorway and whispered beside his ear, "Why didn't you tell me he'd be here?" Julian just lifted a shoulder. "Honestly, I didn't expect him either." "Let's go in." I clenched my teeth and walked inside. The moment Lucas saw me, his eyes lit up, as if my turning up were the most natural thing in the world. "Olivia? I knew you still couldn't let go of me." Before he could finish, he spotted Julian behind me and went rigid. He strode over and grabbed my arm. "What are you doing with him? There's a limit to how far you'll go to piss me off." Julian stepped between us, peeling Lucas's hand away and shielding me with his body, looking down at him coldly. "We're all here for business, keep your hands to yourself." I stared at Lucas with ice in my voice. "Casey, we're nothing to each other anymore. Have some self-respect." Just then the client walked in, so Lucas had to swallow his anger and sit down. That was when we learned the client had invited both camps to hear our pitches and sign with the stronger one. This time I unloaded every argument I had and won the deal for Julian. The moment the client left, Lucas lost it. "Olivia, just how long are you planning to carry on this tantrum?" He reached for me again, but Julian blocked him. "Touch her once more and I'm calling the police." Lucas backed off, and I followed Julian out without a backward glance. Back at headquarters, Julian hurried straight into a meeting, leaving me alone in his office. I drifted around the room and spotted a framed photo on his desk, me crouched in a corner feeding a stray cat. That was the day I'd been pouring my heart out to the scruffy thing, never realizing Julian had been watching the whole time. The memory made my cheeks burn. A young man walked in carrying dessert boxes. "Sam, I'm Julian's assistant. The boss asked me to bring you something sweet, enjoy." He was turning to leave when I called, "Wait. I think we've met." I remembered him from the waterfront parcel auction. He'd been bidding aggressively until I spoke up, then he'd suddenly dropped out. I was curious why. He looked back, surprised. "You actually remember me?" I cut to the chase. "During that land auction, did Julian tell your team not to compete against me?" The assistant froze, hesitated a long moment, then finally spoke. "You don't know how many deals Mr. Vance could have closed but chose to hand to you. After seeing you today, I think I understand why." I waved him out, mind spinning. No wonder it had felt odd. I'd pull late nights perfecting a pitch, yet Julian's side would bow out before I'd even warmed up. When Julian returned, I backed him onto the couch. "Why give projects away? Do you think I'm helpless?" He sighed. "I didn't give them away, I really couldn't seal them." I narrowed my eyes. "Your assistant spilled." He exhaled, voice soft. "I only stepped aside once or twice, every other time you beat me fair and square." I raised a brow and leaned in until my lips brushed his ear. "So you like me that much?" His arm circled my waist, I lost my balance and landed against his chest. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, voice low and rough. "More than like, Olivia. I love you." A month flew by. We snatched deal after deal from Lucas, and whatever had sparked between Julian and me was now a bonfire. On a day I didn't need to shadow him at work, I met best for brunch. Luna took one look and shrieked, "Wow, Ellis, leaving Lucas has you glowing." I swatted her arm. Stop teasing, it's not that dramatic. She dragged me onto the sofa and pinched my cheek. Oh, it's huge. With Lucas you were gaunt, dressed like a housewife, no makeup. Now you're radiant, even gained a little weight, alive again. She leaned in, whispering, you know the bet Lucas ran? Said you'd come crawling back within a month. I bet against him, just cashed in big time, ha ha ha. I rolled my eyes. Then today's feast is on you. She linked her arm through mine, beaming. I'm just glad you're off that love-addicted hamster wheel. Lucas only had eyes for his little childhood shadow. I never got what you saw in him. I shook my head. Neither did I, honestly. After lunch we window shopped, and literally ran into Lucas and his shadow, Bella. Bella scampered over, clinging to me with manufactured sweetness. Olivia, just apologize to Lucas and he'll forgive you. I jerked my hand away, revolted. Why should I? I broke up with him, we're done. Bella's eyes misted. It's my fault. I'll stay away from him, okay? Just, don't be so extreme, sis. Before I could answer, Luna slapped her. Quit the fake tears act, it's disgusting. I yanked Luna back, she's never tolerated drama. Lucas wrapped an arm around Bella, furious. Olivia, however mad you are, sicking your best on Bella is low. Keep throwing your tantrum, I'm done caring. I stared at him with pure contempt, saying nothing. He cooed over Bella's red cheek while we walked off. His voice trailed after us, Olivia, walk away now and don't ever come back. I rolled my eyes so hard it hurt. Why was the word breakup so hard for Lucas to grasp? After that I dived into Sterling Shipping's operations, happier than I'd ever been. On weekends Julian whisked me off to explore every corner of the coast. We returned to our alma mater, and beneath the old sycamore he proposed. He dropped to one knee, pulling out a simple gold band. Olivia, arranged or not, you still deserve a proper proposal. Will you marry me? I was stunned. Once, with Lucas, I'd pictured candlelight and roses, imagined him on one knee. Sometimes I would bring it up, deliberately or not, but Lucas always said a proposal was pointless either way, we were going to stay together. Now, looking at Julian's eyes that reflected only me, I finally understood what it felt like to be truly loved. I stretched out my hand, tears of excitement shining in my eyes. I will. He slid the ring onto my finger, stood, and wrapped me in his arms. When we're almost ready to marry, you can pick out wedding bands all over again, the meanings are completely different. I nodded, rose on tiptoe, and pressed my lips to Julian's. He cupped the back of my head and deepened the kiss. One afternoon I was buried in work when my phone buzzed nonstop. I picked it up, an unknown number had sent images and text. I tapped, the first photo showed Lucas cooking beside Bella. Olivia, have you ever tasted Lucas's food? I swiped up, dozens more shots of them out on the town. I rolled my eyes and blocked her on the spot. She simply bought a new SIM and kept sending daily vacation pics with Lucas. I knew she was showing off, but I no longer cared. I changed my own number, only then did Bella's taunts stop. Time flew, and Julian and I set our wedding date. That day Julian was tied up at work, so I went alone to the mall to choose wedding bands. When I got home, I saw a message from Luna. Photos of you buying rings leaked to Lucas, they swear you're crawling back to him, what's going on? I was still dazed by their imagination. I snapped a picture of the half-finished engraved invitation and shot it over. No. They're for my fiancé, the invitation will reach you in a couple of days. At that very moment Lucas was at a party, phone in hand, staring at the ring-shopping photos. His entourage cracked up. The heiress still can't quit you, looks like she's about to propose. Come on, Alex, share the art of wife taming. 3 solid months of silent treatment, should have bet on the long game. Lucas flicked the screen, smirking. Who else would take her bare-face mornings but me? Bella's smile soured with jealousy, though she kept it sugary. Great, you two are finally making up. I'll keep my distance so I won't upset my future sister-in-law. Lucas shrugged, stroking her hair. No need, you're my favorite girl. She'll have to accept it. Too bad the ring wasn't meant for him but for his sworn enemy. Lucas lost his cool and forwarded the shopping picture to me. I forgive you. I'll come pack your suitcase back home. I gawked at the text, then handed the phone to Julian, laughing so hard I squeaked. Is he for real? The man's delusional. Julian shook his head, equally speechless. I didn't bother replying, I simply blocked his WhatsApp. Next afternoon Julian and I hit the bridal boutique to pick my wedding gown, and ran into Bella, shopping alone. She rushed over, snarling, Olivia, you begged Lucas to take you back, yet you're flaunting another man? Shameless. I'll tell Lucas. Julian stepped forward but I caught his arm. I linked mine through his, radiant. Go ahead and tell him, I'm not crawling back. Bella swung to slap me. Julian seized her wrist. She struggled, face scarlet. Good, because I'm sick of you hogging his love. Let go. Julian glanced at me, I nodded. He released her. I led him away, leaving Bella shrieking behind us. Lucas messaged again, this time greeted by a big red exclamation mark, and rage surged through him. My tantrum had left him unsettled for weeks. Whenever he was with Bella, my face hijacked his thoughts. In the past month alone I'd helped Julian snatch several of his deals. He was furious. He hurled the phone, it shattered across the floor. Bella, who had been living with him, jumped at the crash and patted his back. What's wrong, Lucas? Who upset you? He shoved her off without a word. His patience with her was wearing paper thin. Neither Lucas nor Bella could cook. She tried now and then to please him. Before, he'd praised her progress. Now every bite tasted bland. He missed my meals. He nitpicked her dishes. She grew frantic, and the perfect siblings bickered daily. When we drew up the guest list, Julian told me to send Lucas an invitation. The moment Lucas saw the engraved card bearing Julian's name and mine, his lungs seized. He bought a new phone and called nonstop while Julian and I decorated the venue. I answered. Lucas's hoarse voice crackled, Olivia, tell me it's a joke. You were with Julian all along? Stop this, please. I let out a soft laugh. I've made it clear, we're over, completely. His words trembled. No, you can't live without me. Face reality, Lucas, and don't be late for the wedding. I hung up, pushed Julian into a chair, and settled onto his lap, arms around his neck. Aren't you jealous, making him watch us marry? Julian circled my waist and brushed a kiss below my ear. I want him there so I can show off the incredible woman I'm marrying. Lucas stared at the dead line, feeling as if he'd fallen into an ice cellar. Bella, terrified by the look on his face, edged closer. Lucas, does Olivia really have someone else? A woman like that isn't worth your anger. He hurled the phone and roared, shut up, get lost. Bella burst into sobs. Lucas, why can't you see me? Don't you feel anything? What's so special about Olivia? He rose and slapped her. You're just a sister to me. It's your fault she left, now get out. Time flew, and the morning of my wedding to Julian arrived. The instant I stepped onto the aisle and lifted my eyes, I saw Lucas. He looked up at the same moment, his face drained of every last trace of color. I smiled faintly. The sight seemed to snap something inside him. He bolted toward me like a madman. He dropped to his knees, clutched the hem of my gown, and stared up with bloodshot eyes. Olivia, this can't be real. You're only doing this to spite me, right? You're marrying Julian just to punish me, aren't you? I know I was wrong. I love you. Come back to me, please. I'll tell my parents right now that I want to marry you. It was the first time I'd ever seen Lucas so completely humbled in front of me. I shook my head with a small smile. We've been over for a long time, Lucas. Today is my wedding day. If you ever loved me, don't ruin it. He rose, gripping my forearms so hard his knuckles whitened, tears glinting in his eyes. Impossible. You love me. I love you. Let's start over, okay? Julian finally snapped out of his shock and strode up the steps to pull Lucas away. Lucas, this is my wedding to Olivia. I don't want to throw a punch, so I'm giving you one chance. Walk away. Lucas didn't even hear him. He just kept clinging to my skirt. She's mine, my wife. I'm not leaving. Olivia, I swear I know I messed up. I'll cut Bella off this second, just come back, please? I'd known inviting him might stir drama, but I hadn't expected his emotions to spiral so wildly out of control. I frowned. Don't speak nonsense. You and I are nothing now. Keep this up and I'll call security. Julian's voice hardened. Did you hear her? Need me to have you dragged out? Lucas's father rushed on stage, apology written across his face. Julian, our boy must have taken something this morning, brains fried. He'll pay for disrupting your ceremony. I'll haul him home and deal with him myself. Don't let it upset you. He yanked his son's arm, cursing under his breath as they retreated. Today is CEO Vance's wedding. One flick of his wrist and our headquarters is dust, and you choose now to lose your mind? Move. Lucas kept screaming back at me, Olivia, I was wrong, I really know it now. Olivia. Don't marry Julian, please. His voice faded into the distance. I didn't look again. Julian exhaled, caught my wrist, eyes scanning for injuries. Olivia, are you hurt? I shook my head. He wrapped me in a tight embrace. It's my fault. If I hadn't invited him, you wouldn't have had to endure that. I hugged him back, murmuring, it's fine. I'm okay. The ceremony continued without further incident, and soon we were in our bridal suite. Julian dialed his assistant. We can move on the Hawthorne takeover, now. Puzzled, I asked, you're acquiring Lucas's family firm? He lifted me onto his lap. Consider it my wedding gift to you. I framed his face and kissed him. He lowered me onto the sofa and deepened it until the world spun. I woke the next morning to an empty bed. After a quick shower and change, I went downstairs. Lucas and his father were in the living room. Julian was playing host. Lucas's eyes flared when he saw me, then dimmed again. I slipped to Julian's side. Mr. Hawthorne looked at me, shamefaced. Olivia, my son behaved like an animal. I brought him to apologize. Could you put in a word so Julian doesn't swallow my company? I tugged Julian aside and whispered, forget his dad's firm. Let's take Lucas's instead. I built that outfit from the ground up, left in his hands, he'll crash it. Julian tapped my nose, grinning. Whatever my wife wants. He turned to Lucas. Then we'll take your company as compensation. His father beamed, nodding eagerly. Perfect, perfect. As long as my headquarters stays intact, the boy can give his up. Lucas objected, Dad. No way, that's my company. His father slapped him hard. You've got nerve. You almost ruined CEO Vance's wedding. You can't run that place worth a dime, idiot. Humiliation burned Lucas's cheeks. He stared at the floor and shut up. I knew his father cared only for profit, and Lucas was the spare heir, not the crown prince. So whether Lucas liked it or not, the deal was done. Negotiations moved fast, contracts were signed on the spot. Mr. Hawthorne shoved his son in front of me. Apologize to Mrs. Vance. Lucas glowered, refusing. His father hissed, unless you want the next flight out of the country, behave. Face like thunder, Lucas bowed stiffly. I'm sorry, I waved them off. We're done here. I'm having breakfast. Days slid by. I threw myself into running my new company. Lucas's name never came up. Then one morning I flicked on the TV and saw Lucas's mugshot flash across the screen. My best texted immediately, Olivia, did you hear? Lucas is in county jail. Bar fight with his entourage, he put some guy in the hospital, vegetative state. I dug around and learned that Lucas had gone drinking with his usual crew. One buddy mocked, Alex, you really blew it, your nemesis even stole your girl. Yeah, remember when you swore you'd teach us wife-taming tricks? Guess you flunked your own course. Lucas lunged, fists flying, one punch left the man brain dead. The parents refused to settle, and Lucas was arrested. I exhaled, grateful I'd woken up in time. Who knew how far his rage could have gone? Julian and I drove to the jail, just to see him once. His beard was overgrown, eyes hollow. When he noticed me, surprise flickered, then shame. Here to laugh at the clown, he muttered. I shook my head. Just saying goodbye, as a friend. Outside, the sky was blinding blue. I tilted my face to the light and glanced at Julian. Thank heaven I came to my senses. My real life, my real happiness, has only just begun. Thank you for listening. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? If you enjoyed it, please like and share. Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more. See you next time. 3 days before the wedding I brushed my hand against a hidden panel in Chase's study. What I saw inside is seared into my memory. A room no bigger than a few dozen square feet was crammed, neatly, obsessively, with another woman's photos and belongings. Thousands of items, each tagged and catalogued with devotional care. Aged 8, Sophie braided me my first ring. Inside a velvet box worth millions sat a dried grass promise ring, brittle with age. Aged 18, Sophie's first gala gown. The decade-old dress bore the fresh scent of starch, recently pressed. Tens of thousands of relics, every one labeled, every one treasured. On the central table lay a yellowed envelope. Inside, a single line. Aged 23, Sophie married, my heart died with her. I traced the still damp tear stain and my knees buckled. The man I'd loved 8 years was nothing but a living corpse. Fine, then I would give them their happy ending. Before we go on, please subscribe and tell us where you're listening from. I stumbled out of the study and called Dad. Dad, I'll go through with grandfather's strategic alliance. Surprise turned to joy on the other end. Good, good. That guy or boy's too cold, you'd never be happy. Look at Logan, he's warm, real, alive. He hung up mid-lecture. I stared at the open hidden panel, bitterness flooding me. In 8 years Ellis had never let me spend a night here. My toothbrush, slippers, towel, everything disposable, set out for a guest. After every brief intimacy, those items and I vanished together. At first I cried, raged. All I got was his chilled reassurance. Skylar, I have germ phobia. As long as you're in my heart, why torture us both? I invented excuses, maybe discretion, maybe marriage would fix it. I even blamed my body, my allure. His life was sterile, the fault had to be mine. Never once did I consider that the mistress of the house already existed. There was simply no room left for anyone else. Now I understood why he insisted on keeping our marital home in this old house. He meant to spend his life here with her while married to me. Thinking of that still wet tear on the letter and how Ellis had stayed in the study all last night, my stomach lurched. I ran to the bathroom and retched. My phone rang. Ellis sounded buoyant, almost breezy. Skylar, I can't make the gown fitting, my childhood friend Sophie is back, and there's a welcome party. In 8 years I had never heard that name from his lips. My mind detonated. When I didn't answer he lost patience. Skylar, take me with you. The words escaped before I could stop them. He hesitated. You hate those events. I exhaled slowly. Ellis, send me the location. Long silence, he clearly didn't want me there. Then a gentle female voice drifted over the line. Chase, don't be like that. Let her come, the more the merrier. The call cut off. 2 seconds later a pin dropped. Come, but don't make a scene. I glanced at the map, the Geyer Love Nest estate, the place I'd begged to visit for 8 years and been denied. It was where his parents met. 20 years ago his father bought the land and built the estate as a gift to his mother, never open to outsiders. Its reputation for romantic devotion was legend. Everyone assumed the next event there would be Ellis's wedding. They overestimated me. A single casual mention and Ellis had exploded. Keep your hands off their love. Know your place. Yet a simple welcome back for her merited a banquet there. My knuckles whitened around the phone. She had called him Chase, not Ellis. Needles pierced my heart as I realized. In every rare intimate moment he'd made me call him Chase, eyes closed. I thought it was preference. Afterward, the same name earned only his icy stare. Half an hour later Ellis's car idled in the drive. Even through the cracked window I heard his bright laughter. 8 years and I'd never heard it beside me. I approached. The passenger seat was taken. A soft voice greeted me. Skylar? Sorry for stealing your spot, take it, I'll move. The door opened, but Ellis clamped her hand. Sophie, stay. He turned to me, eyes frosting over. Back seat. Then he smiled at her and eased the car into gear. An invisible fist clenched my heart. I swallowed and opened the rear door. A ball of fur launched at me, hissing. Sorry, Skylar, she's timid but harmless, Ellis said, producing a freeze-dried treat. Daddy's got a snack, Nina, don't be scared. The kitten nuzzled his fingers and ate, calming at once. Lightning struck my brain. Ellis was allergic, once swore he loathed cats and their arrogance. Yet he doted on this one, gaze softer than any he'd ever aimed at me. Her name was Nina. My 8-year devotion felt like a punchline. The kitten, energized, began ricocheting around the back seat. It didn't take long before Ellis's car was clawed to shreds by Nina. Sophie, hearing the commotion from the back seat, patted Ellis on the shoulder. Chase, look, your little daughter's being naughty. Doesn't she remind you of yourself? Ellis angled his body slightly, then smiled with a tenderness that lit up his whole face. This was a custom order Ellis had placed overseas half a year ago, worth 7 figures. The day it arrived, my high heel had merely brushed the seat by accident, and Ellis had frowned. A grown woman who still doesn't know how to be careful. From now on, take your shoes off before you get in. I lowered my gaze to my now bare feet, then to the seat Nina had just shredded, and tears I could no longer hold back fell in heavy drops. So my place in his heart was far beneath the cat curled in her arms. My phone rang at the worst possible moment. Seeing Dad's number, I hesitated a long time before answering. Skylar, Logan's over the moon that you said yes. He insists on a wedding right away, so your father and Uncle York have set it for 3 days from now. How does that sound? Okay. Afraid Dad would sense something wrong, I answered quickly and hung up. Ellis, who'd been chatting with Sophie the whole time, glanced at me in the rearview mirror. What's set for 3 days? Sounded like your father. Wedding details, must have been someone else. You misheard. My words froze the laughter in the car to silence. Sophie's smile vanished, she turned to the window and said nothing. Ellis's eyes filled with heartache as he looked at her, then he slammed on the brakes. Twisting around, he erupted at me. Skylar, is our marriage something to brag about? Must you announce it everywhere we go? It's nothing but a meaningless business merger. The moment he finished, his voice switched to a velvet softness. He sighed, gaze on Sophie. Sophie. Slowly she turned to him, and in that look they traded a decade of longing and grievance. A few seconds later Sophie faced me. Skylar, I wish you happiness. As the words left her lips, tears shimmered in Ellis's eyes. What a pair of star-crossed lovers. Soon, very soon, I would return this half-alive man to her. I lifted my eyes to Sophie. Thank you. The instant I spoke, Ellis stomped on the brake again. I lurched forward and slammed my head into the seat in front. The world spun. His icy voice rang beside my ear. Skylar, no one would mistake you for a mute if you just kept quiet. After that, no one said another word. When we finally stopped, I realized the blow had opened a gash on my forehead. My heart had gone numb, I hadn't even felt the pain. Ellis busied himself helping Sophie and Nina out, never noticing the blood trailing from my hairline to the corner of my mouth. I'm going to the restroom, I'll find you in a minute. I walked off alone. Ellis didn't bother to lift his head, let alone answer. In the mirror I saw the cut, half a finger long, nearly an inch deep. Worried about infection, I slapped on a band-aid and let my hair fall to hide half my face. Probably because of that, Ellis, cozied up to Sophie in the booth, didn't spot me when I slipped into the private room. A friend beside them teased, Sophie, did you know Ellis stayed 8 years with that woman only because she could cook stuffed bell pepper classic exactly the way you do? The wineglass I'd just been handed shattered on the floor. 8 years. Every single time I showed up at Ellis's place he'd asked for that dish. Only while eating it would he grant me a scrap of gentleness in his eyes. I'd thought my cooking had tethered his heart. I'd never imagined. Every kindness he'd shown me in those 8 years had been borrowed from another woman. The crash of glass hushed the laughing crowd. The friend who'd spoken recognized me and shot up, pale, trying to explain. Sophie, don't take it seriously, just kidding among friends. He jabbed Ellis in the ribs. Ellis, Skylar's here, go see if she's hurt. Ellis's arm stayed locked around Sophie's waist. His face was flushed, he'd clearly drunk a lot. He raised his eyes, emptied his glass over my head, and snarled, Skylar. I told you, come if you want, but don't make trouble. You think my word is wind? Sneaking in here looking like some ghost, who are you trying to haunt? The alcohol soaked the band-aid, it slid off, and pain stabbed deep into the wound. The same friend noticed, tugged Ellis's sleeve. Ellis, she really is hurt. Quiet as she is, what did she do wrong? Cool down, go talk to her. The room fell deathly still. At last Sophie dabbed wine from Ellis's wrist and murmured, Chase, go check. Before she could finish, Ellis kicked the sideboard over, pointed at me with bloodshot eyes and roared, get out. Nina, startled, rubbed against his ankle. Feeling her tremble, he scooped her up, soothed her, and speed dialed. Send someone to escort the guest out. My feet felt cast in lead. I stumbled out, and as the door swung shut I saw Ellis toss back an allergy pill, then Sophie lean in and kiss him with a smile. Back home I bolted straight to the bathroom, scrubbing madly at the stench of the day, cat, car leather, club smoke, everything disgusted me. Sleep never came. Just after dawn Sophie posted a live photo, her fingers trailing down a man's bare back. 10 years, and I didn't lose you after all. 2,000 nights, and I had never touched Ellis like that. Whenever I tried, distance was all I got. At sunrise Ellis called, voice languid with satisfaction. Skylar, I was drunk last night, don't mind me. With the wedding so close you'll have your hands full. Sophie isn't staying long, but I have to play the host. I smiled. Of course. I'll make sure this wedding is one you'll never forget. Ellis sounded surprised, then chuckled. Skylar, you're always so understanding, no wonder mom and dad adore you. Yes, now I see the only ones who ever loved me were his parents. 2 days before the wedding, I cancelled the reception, cancelled the officiant. According to the contract, the cancellation clause had also been sent to Ellis, but I knew the man whose heart was glued to Sophie wouldn't even notice. Sure enough, 2 whole days passed without a word from Ellis. On the wedding day I sat at the airport staring at a boarding pass for a flight leaving in 2 hours, and after a long hesitation I finally dialed Ellis. The phone rang a few times with no answer. The moment I hung up, Ellis, who never calls back, actually did. I could tell he was forcing down his irritation. You're in a rush, but can you quit acting like it's life or death? After today all of Eastbrook will know you're Mrs. Geyer. Are a few minutes going to kill you? The thing had only rung a couple of times. When I stayed silent his tone softened a notch. Sophie's in a lousy mood today. I'll keep her company and then I'll come. Mom and Dad have landed and are heading to the venue. Cover for me in a bit. He hung up right after. Oh, bad mood, so he can ditch the wedding I've waited 8 years for. I stared at my shoes and laughed out loud. Logan had texted me well over 100 times since early morning. I randomly picked one of the reception photos bearing both our names and sent it to Ellis. Ellis, I'm giving up the seat of Mrs. Geyer. Be happy together. Then I blocked Ellis's number and left without looking back. All the way to Seaport I scrolled through 8 years of chat history between Ellis and me. His messages were pitifully few. Opening the album, every shot of him showed only the backside captured. 8 years, and we never had a single photo together. Countless times I nearly pulled Ellis out of the blacklist, but each time the urge had I pinched myself hard. More than 2,000 nights, loving him had seeped into my marrow, grown into my flesh like my own skin. Tearing it away hurts, of course it does, but a sharp pain now beats a lifetime of bitterness. Luckily, my deal with Logan is only a strategic alliance. That spares me some guilt toward the man who is at once familiar and strange. Logan is the youngest grandson of grandfather's sworn brother from the York family, raised from birth under a waterfall of love. Dad says the kid arrived as the brightest boy in all Seaport, spirited and mischievous from day one, with his own flair for business. Apart from his stubborn refusal to date, he has practically no flaws. Yet I've lost all trust in men. Back when Ellis's parents first pitched him to me they sounded the same. Skylar, don't worry, our Ellis is only a little aloof, nothing else. But that single nothing almost cost me my life. As for the York heir, pushing 30 and still unmarried, who's to say he isn't another pit of fire? Still, fresh out of the swamp, I can't afford to overthink. The instant I exited the gate I saw Mom and Dad waiting. Dad moved ahead to pull my suitcase. Mom threaded her arm through mine and murmured, Skylar, Logan moved his grandfather's chosen auspicious time back a full hour just to suit your flight, something Ellis could never manage in a million years. Trust us, Logan's a good kid. I merely smiled at her without replying. The reception hall was packed. I spotted Logan the moment I stepped in. He looked nothing like the boy I remembered. His tailored suit stretched his frame even taller, the sleeves casually rolled to mid-forearm lending ease to the formal scene. His face bright with laughter as he worked the crowd of elders like a fish in water. Truly, he and Ellis are polar opposites. Logan, look who's here. Logan's grandpa noticed me first and waved him over. Mid-handshake, Logan spun around, curved a grin and laughed aloud. The wife has arrived, and she didn't even make a sound? Shoving through the guests he strode toward me. When Mom and Dad heard him call me that they giggled behind me. As Logan reached me I instinctively stepped back, forcing a smile as I answered, the ceremony hasn't started, don't call me that. The words were barely out before I regretted them. They hurled me back to every scene with Ellis across those 8 years. At first I too had wanted to be like sweet couples, to tease him in public with a playful husband, but the very first time he'd snapped, Skylar, I didn't expect you to be so cheap. We don't even have a license, why are you calling me that? The chill I felt that day still lingers. I don't want to become another Ellis. So when I looked at Logan again there was apology in my eyes. Yet Logan only burst out laughing at my awkwardness, ruffling his grandpa's hair as he joked. Grandpa, no wonder you picked her, she's hilarious. His stunt shocked me. Old Mr. York, a legend who terrifies boardrooms, is feared even by Logan's own father in public. Yet Logan treats him like this, and the old man just beams. Whatever the case, Logan's easy nature lets me breathe. With Ellis every minute felt like walking on eggshells. Today tells me that may be over. A match of mutual consent, blessed by both families, everything flowed. Our wedding ended in laughter and cheers. After seeing off the parents and the York clan, only Logan and I remained in the vast reception hall. Exhausted from the day, Logan looked drained. He slipped off his jacket and draped it over his forearm. When he looked at me again the laughter was gone from his eyes. Skylar, thanks for promoting this backup to leading man. I know you don't love me, but rest assured, I'll never treat you like Ellis did." His words snapped my newly loosened nerves tight again. I'd known all along that the man who could seize the York Empire in his 20s couldn't be all sunshine and jokes. For 8 years I'd tiptoed around Ellis, only to reap fresh humiliations and neglect. So this time I refused to run. I stand, meeting Logan's unreadable gaze. "Logan, I don't follow. We're a strategic alliance. If you weren't willing, you could have refused. I, Skylar, am not someone who has to marry you." Yet Logan's tone sounded like he was handing out charity. The uncertainty about tomorrow made me restless. "Skylar, that's not what I meant. I'm saying, whether or not you love me, I've already loved you for a very, very long time." This time I was the one who froze. I had imagined 10,000 ways he might explain himself, but never this one. I gave a bitter smile, still unsure how to answer, when the phone that had been silent all day suddenly shrilled. I glanced at the screen. Ellis's mom. I realized I'd forgotten to block her. Logan dipped his head just enough to see the number, then stepped back wordlessly and tipped his chin toward the phone. "You take it. I'll wait." After all, this was a man who had entangled me for 8 years, and his mother had once treated me kindly. I hesitated, then picked up. Her voice came out anxious. "Skylar, what on earth happened? Today was supposed to be your wedding to Ellis. He showed up halfway through, but you never appeared at all. You two said no guests, but his father and I have waited the entire day. Don't you think we deserve an explanation?" By the end her tone had turned accusing. I exhaled slowly. "Aunt Victoria, Ellis and I have broken up. I messaged him before I left. He can give you the details." "Broken up?" "Yes. Does your father know?" "A matter this big, Aunt Victoria, I'm already another man's wife. Ellis is no longer part of my life, so neither are you. I'm busy, goodbye." I hung up before she could finish. From her tone Ellis had left the ceremony halfway through, yet she questioned me instead of her son. Interesting family. The instant the call ended, an unknown number rang through. Worried it was some loose end from wedding vendors, I answered without thinking. Before I could speak, Ellis's familiar snarl cracked through. "Skylar. How dare you hang up on my mother? She's an elder. Don't you have any upbringing at all?" So he had been listening while she called. Logan kept fiddling with his phone, but his full attention was clearly on me. This was a strategic alliance, and I didn't want him labeling me a shrew on day one, so I swallowed my anger. "Ellis, there's nothing left for your mother and me to discuss. The relationship was between you and me. I already told you it was over. While I was canceling every wedding detail, each vendor messaged you as well. Your own indifference created today's embarrassment. Don't blame me. And I do have upbringing, it's you who lacks class." In 8 years I had never spoken to Ellis like this. He went silent on the other end for several beats before he finally blustered. "Fine, we'll park that for now. What did you mean telling my mother you're now someone else's wife?" "The literal meaning." "Nice move, Skylar. You run out on our wedding and land another man in one day? You've been cheating, haven't you?" "Who is he?" Ellis was practically shouting. Even with the volume at minimum, Logan heard every word. He lifted an eyebrow and grinned. That smile dissolved every shred of composure I'd just rebuilt. Ellis kept raving. "Skylar, answer me. Who the hell is that man?" "It's none of your." "It's me, Logan." Before I could finish, Logan plucked the phone from my hand. His voice turned glacial, his expression deadly serious. Ellis clearly hadn't expected that name. After a stunned pause he said nothing and simply cut the call. Logan arched an eyebrow and returned the phone. "Skylar, your taste in men is awful. He clucks louder than the old hen in my grandfather's yard." The absurd image punctured my tangle of feelings. I burst out laughing. Now that you mention it, the resemblance is uncanny. We both knew why the cocky Ellis had folded the second Logan spoke. The social gulf between the Geyer and York dynasties is Grand Canyon wide. The Geyers clawed their way up only in Ellis's father's generation, while York businesses have thrived for a century. Last year I'd overheard Ellis grumble, "That York heir really puts on airs. My father, his elder, has been trying to schedule one lousy meeting for 6 months and still can't get on his calendar." The arrogance. No wonder he'd fled the call. He'd outed his own inferiority complex. "Skylar, you still haven't answered what I said earlier." Logan's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. I did answer. I said the hen comparison is spot on. I started walking. He caught my wrist from behind. "You know that's not the line I meant." My heart sank like lead, pressing the air from my lungs. I didn't know how to reply. Ellis had never spoken to me this way, so I'd never learned the script for responding to a blunt declaration of love. After a long moment I half turned. I understand, Logan. I don't love you now, but I'll work hard to let myself love you later. I swear every word was true. My capacity for love had burned out on Ellis. I couldn't magically reboot like some perpetual motion machine. But the latter half was equally sincere. The man behind me would share my life. I knew too well how bitter loveless days could be. Avery, I didn't want him to hurt, and I didn't want to hurt either. So I would find a way. Logan stayed silent for a long beat, then exhaled a low, heavy sigh. That's okay, Skylar. I'll wait. Still, thank you. His answer loosened the knot in my chest. I knew he had heard me. Married life proved far easier than I'd feared. I had dreaded endless one-on-one time with Logan, exactly the scenario that made me twitch. But I needn't have worried. Taylor, Logan's schedule was so packed I could go whole days without seeing him. Paparazzi probably caught more glimpses. A steady stream of texts arrived, true, but texts weren't face-to-face, and that suited me just fine. Dad also started nudging me to take over the family business. I'm the Winton family's only daughter. After finally heeding Mom and Dad and moving back to Seaport, Dad's smile hasn't left his face once. Wonderful. Now I can finally relax about you, and about handing the company to you. Dad's old, it's time to retire. So, little by little, I got busy too. One drizzly afternoon I'd just stepped out of Dad's office when Logan rang. He was trying to sound upbeat, but exhaustion leaked through. Wife, we've gone 60+ hours without seeing each other. I miss you. Come keep me company somewhere, okay? Okay, drop me the pin and I'll come. At first I wasn't used to Logan's sticky sweet talk, but after living side by side these past weeks I'd learned to volley it right back. Only then did I realize that, between back-to-back meetings, hearing him say those things really does sand down the irritation and fatigue. No way I'm letting my wife tire herself. I'm already downstairs. I walked to the end of the corridor and looked down. Sure enough, Logan's car was waiting. He was leaning against it, grinning as he slipped a cigarette to the security guard. This is one thing about Logan I outright admire. The man never acts as if he's even half a notch above anyone else. Within days, the stone-faced head of Winton Tower Security, still clueless about who Logan actually was, had adopted him as a kid brother, letting him glide in and out of the building like it was his own living room. I actually called Dad and made security hold a meeting about it. The lapse was ridiculous, but when Dad heard, he laughed until he couldn't straighten his back, praising nonstop. That boy's character is solid. Old Mr. York raised him right. Skylar? Logan's voice floated up when I stayed silent too long. Coming, smoke less. That kid downstairs is only 20, don't corrupt him. The moment the words left my lips I startled myself. First time I'd ever policed Logan's habits, and it slid out so naturally. The instant I said it I regretted it. Had it been Ellis, he'd have blown up. Yes, ma'am, my lady wife. My unease didn't last. Logan's thrilled answer settled me right back. Honestly, being with Logan is just effortless. Downstairs I caught sight of the half-cigarette Logan had ground beneath his shoe. I'd only tossed out a casual remark, yet he'd taken it to heart. The young guard hurried over, picked up the butt, and clapped Logan's shoulder in goodbye. Logan tossed him the half-full pack. My wife says no smoking. Here, take it, and go easy, you're only 20, still a kid. He draped an arm around me and steered me into the car. Studying his profile, curiosity bubbled up. I finally caved and asked, what were you and that guy gabbing about down there? You looked like old pals. His mom came to the city for treatment and couldn't get an appointment. I pulled some strings. He tells you his mom's sick? Yep. Also told me a girl on the cleaning crews had a crush on him for half a year. Suddenly, just like Dad the other day, I burst out laughing. I thought Ellis and I would never cross paths again. He's a man who sizes up which way the wind blows. Surely he'd had someone confirm my marriage to Logan long ago. The Yorks aren't a family he can afford to rile, and I was never the one etched in his heart. He must have moved on. Yet midway through dinner with Logan, Ellis barged in half-drunk. The place is members only, and Logan had booked it out tonight. I never imagined Ellis could appear. Skylar, I want an explanation. I don't think I've ever faced a scene this mortifying. I tried to stay calm, but my chopsticks hovered between two dishes forever. Before I set them down, I forced myself steady and looked up. Nothing to explain. I saw what's behind the hidden panel in your study. You betrayed us first. Betrayed? On what grounds? Did you catch me in bed, or I hadn't expected Ellis to be this shameless. While I hesitated over how to answer so he'd just leave, Logan, who'd been silent, stood and smashed his fist into Ellis's face. Scarlet blood sheeted down Ellis's nose. "Emery, don't push your luck. Skylar's my wife now." You barge in demanding an explanation from Logan's woman. "Go ask around Seaport who talks to me like that. I let you in tonight as a courtesy to her. Keep running your mouth and it won't be you I handle, it'll be your old man." I'd never seen Logan this cold. His voice stayed low, but frost-lined every word. Ellis slumped on the floor, resentment swimming in his eyes. Yet he kept weighing whether to stay. Finally he staggered upright, gulped down his pride, and tried again. "Skylar, only after you left did I realize I really love you. Please, just one more chance?" For some reason I felt laughter bubble up. "Ellis, you're nauseating." I grabbed Logan's hand and marched out. I couldn't share the same air another second. I truly felt sick. Outside, Logan speed-dialed someone. "Let's show the Geyer Company some special attention." I heard about Ellis again 2 weeks later. The Geyer empire was being squeezed by every major player, the business nosedived, and bankruptcy filings were days away. That so-called romantic, Geyer love nest estate had been seized to cover debts. Mediocre at best, Ellis could only watch the dynasty collapse overnight. Depression gnawed at him, his mind frayed. Sophie slipped out of Eastbrook long ago without a trace. In the end they still lost each other. The news reached me while Logan and I were at the hospital. Our lives were about to welcome a brand new heartbeat. For me, wasn't that a rebirth as well? Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.
The 99th time I proposed to Zach, he finally said yes. Then he turned around and gave the custom engagement ring I'd had made for me to the ingenue he's been grooming. I'm planning a 3-person wedding. Lily needs the heat right now or the board will drop her. On the day itself I swept past him in the family's $10 million couture wedding gown. Zach actually stepped into traffic, alone, to block my way to the chapel. His eyes were bloodshot. "You swore you'd never marry anyone but me." I laughed. "First time I've seen you cry. You look grotesque." Before we go on, smash subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. The Z. S engraved inside the diamond flashed cold in the sun, Zach's and mine. The ring that had taken 3 months to design now circled Lily's slender 4th finger. She giggled and lifted her hand to the lens. "Sam's gift. Gorgeous, right?" The comment feed exploded. "I'm dead. Queen is living the dream." My grip on the champagne flute tightened, condensation slid between my fingers and into my cuff. This was Zach's victory party. His new streaming series had blown up, and overnight Lily was a star. Me, the official fiancé, hovered on the fringe like unwanted furniture. "Sophie, come." Zach beckoned, the way you summon a golden retriever. I crossed the Persian carpet on 10-centimeter heels, gown hem whispering over the silk. "Lily's people say she needs a headline that detonates," he murmured, arm curled around her shoulder. "A 3-way wedding will catapult her." "You're cool with that, yeah?" Lily dabbed her eyes. "Riley, I know it's obscene, but I really do love Sam." The crystal chandelier haloed them in merciless light. I flashed back to last month, same rooftop hotel, when I knelt for proposal number 99. Back then he'd said, "Sophie, I've figured it out. Let's get married." I thought dawn had arrived. It was merely the hush before the cloudburst. "I don't mind." I flashed my practice smile and drained the champagne. The bubbles scalded all the way down. Zach looked startled. He'd expected the old me, the one who trailed him through every humiliation for a decade. The ceremony was set for the following week at his beachfront mansion. Staring at the gold-embossed invitation, I tasted rust. All the birthdays, anniversaries, grand gestures I'd engineered for him were worth less than one of her whims. The first proposal had been on our 3rd anniversary. I'd rented the city's top French restaurant, filled the corridor with rose petals, and waited under the crystal chandelier in the lavender dress he loved. When he pushed open the private room door, I went down on one knee, ring lifted. "Zach, I love you, marry me." He froze, mortified. "Stop clowning," he muttered, and walked out. That ring was relegated to a velvet box, never seen again. The second time, I learned he loved sunsets, so I booked the summit observation deck 3 months out. I wore white couture, new ring in hand, and stood haloed by gold light. He arrived, frowned, and said, "Sophie, quit the childish stunts," then spun on his heel. I trembled alone in the rising wind. After that I tried every trope: a candlelit yacht deck, a hot air balloon trailing a banner, even an entire amusement park so I could pop the question at the apex of the Ferris wheel. Each production ended the same, his shrug of irritation. By proposal 98, I'd stopped decorating. I simply met him at our usual cafe and asked over latte foam, "Zach, how about we marry?" He didn't lift his eyes. Whatever. Exhaustion had eclipsed hope. The 99th was the most offhand of all. We were pulling an all-nighter at the office. I glanced at his tired profile and blurted, "Maybe we should just marry." The silence stretched until he exhaled, "Sophie, I've figured it out. Let's get married." I thought dawn had arrived. It was merely the hush before the cloudburst. At the charity gala, crystal chandeliers fractured champagne sparks while Zach steered Lily through the donor crowd. I nursed a glass of juice in the corner and watched Lily swing her diamond bracelet toward his face. "Sam, look, Riley's pearls are the same style my grandma wore in the 70s. Zach's gaze flicked over, lip corner curling. "Sophie, is the Vance vault empty? Want me to have Lily FedEx you this season's drops?" A low ripple of snickers circled the room, each one a needle punching through my eardrums. The pearl necklace at my throat had belonged to my mother. They knew exactly how to turn it into a punchline. Lily hid her smile behind perfectly manicured fingers and leaned deeper into Zach's arms. "Sam, don't tease. Riley's just sentimental, that's all. Not like me, I only dare wear what Sam gives me. I'd die of embarrassment if I picked the wrong thing." Her fingertip drifted across the ring carved with SC on her left hand, the custom engagement ring I'd had made for my 99th proposal. Now it was her favorite prop. "Sentimental?" Zach snorted, hooking an arm around her waist as he strolled toward me. He tilted his champagne just far enough to splash my gown hem. "Sounds more like she can't afford new. Rumor is Vance is courting Hale for a strategic marriage. Ellis banking on a rescue merger?" His voice carried just enough for the curious cluster nearby to pivot their gazes on me. My fists clenched until nails bit into my palms. "Zach, this is none of your business." "None of mine?" Lily broke into a sudden cough, pressing a hand to her chest, cheeks bleaching as she sagged against him. "Riley, I know you hate me, but Sam only wants to give me my last wish. Why embarrass us in front of everyone?" Sympathetic murmurs rose instantly. "Poor fragile girl, shame on the jealous ex." Zach seized the momentum, voice icing over. "Hear that, Sophie? Lily's pregnant, she's fragile. Can't you show a scrap of decency instead of ambushing us?" He paused, pulled a folded proposal from his inside pocket, and flipped it onto the table in front of me. "New Emery project. I considered letting Vance in. Now." I cut him off, scooped up the document, knuckles blanching. "Keep it. Vance doesn't chase scraps from Emery. As for you, Jamie," I met her darting eyes. "Pregnant and frail, yet dancing in 10-centimeter stilettos? Call the journals, we've got a medical miracle." Lily's face strained. Zach barked, "Sophie, watch your mouth." He stepped between us like a shield, same stance he once took to protect me from a downpour, now guarding the woman who'd gutted me. "Making things up?" I laughed, pulled my phone from the clutch, tapped play. Let's hear Jamie and Sam in surround sound. Their recorded voices rolled through the ballroom, every gasp, every moan. The crowd detonated in whispers. Lily shrieked and lunged for the phone. Zach caught my wrist instead, cold rage in his eyes. "You had us followed? You'd sink this low for revenge? The pressure on my bones felt crushing, yet the sight of him defending her was almost comic. This was the man I'd once loved to the point of self-erasure, now willing to break me for a liar. I wrenched free, tossed the phone onto the linen. Lo? When you two trampled me, did you ever remember who stayed up till dawn debugging code for your first pitch contest 10 years ago? His grip slackened, something fractured behind his stare. Lily whimpered, Sam, she's just jealous. Enough. I turned to go, heels cracking against marble like shattering illusions. From this second, Zach, we're strangers. Wire me the ring cost. Behind me his roar and her sobs fused into white noise. I didn't look back, some wounds must be cauterized, not bandaged. I fished out my phone, thumb hovering over the contact labeled Avery. 3 seconds of silence, then the call connected. My voice came out calm, detached, as if discussing someone else's checkbook. Dylan, execute the equity withdrawal from Sterling Entertainment and move my personal shares per yesterday's draft. Settlement before close of business. Dylan hesitated. Alice, are you certain? Emery's in hypergrowth, a pullout could cascade. I'm certain. I'd entered college wrapped in cotton wool, the Vance heiress who knew nothing of sharp edges. At the club fair I wandered into the Entrepreneurship Society by accident. First meeting, I stammered through my intro, palms slick with sweat. From the back row Zach stood up, grinning. Ease up, everyone, our future strategy gurus here. His bright eyes curved like crescent moons, voice warm enough to thaw my panic. We bumped into each other in the library after that. One night I crashed over spreadsheets, asleep on an open textbook. I woke to his jacket draped across my shoulders, a still warm coffee beside a sticky note. Dummy, nap here and you'll catch a cold. Something inside me softened, so this was what quiet care felt like. The moment I truly fell came during the startup competition. My module imploded, the whole pitch threatened to unravel. I hid in a stairwell crying. Zach found me, offered tissues without questions, and when my sobs slowed said, "Come on, we'll fix it together." We hunched over his laptop till dawn while he walked me through models, line by line, iteration after iteration. At 3 a.m. the deck was done. He turned, smiled. See? Nothing we can't solve together. Moonlight spilled across his face through the window, and in that moment I knew I had fallen completely in love with this warm, dependable boy. From then on, I began to look forward to every time we met. The way he looked shooting hoops, the tiny wrinkle between his brows when he thought hard, the focused expression when he explained something to me, each became another reason my heart beat faster. I thought we would walk on like that forever, never imagining the story would later twist into something unrecognizable. The crystal chandelier in the old Vance mansion still blazed blindingly. Father sat on the rosewood sofa, cigar smoke curling from his fingers. When he saw me come in he merely lifted an eyelid. Thought it through? I set the ring I'd taken off on the coffee table, the clink of metal against wood rang through the silent living room. Dad, I said, walking over and sitting opposite him, voice calm, I've had Dylan handle the Sterling shares. The equity withdrawal documents will arrive this afternoon. Also, I'd like to discuss a strategic marriage with the Hale family of Eastport. Father's cigar hand paused, a flicker of satisfaction crossing his eyes. The Hale heir, Adrian. You've met him, last month's charity gala. I remember. Adrian, heir to Eastport's richest dynasty, had worn a bespoke tux that night and clinked glasses with me politely, his gaze open and gentle, nothing like Zach's habitual cool distance. Dad, I agree to the marriage. I cut off his introductions. With the Hale connection, Vance gets the resources it needs, and I get a fresh start. Just then my phone vibrated, Zach's name flashed on the screen. I slid to answer. His familiar, faintly impatient voice came at once. Sophie, are you done throwing your tantrum? Dylan says you're withdrawing capital? It's just a ceremonial wedding with Lily. Do you have to be this jealous? My knuckles whitened around the phone, but I laughed. Jealous? Zach, did you misunderstand something? All right, he placated, as though soothing a child. I know you're upset. Once Lily's 3-month thing is over, I'll marry you properly, okay? Stop making a scene, we can't lose Vance backing right now. His tone was one of taken for granted certainty, as though my 10 years of devotion and my present resolve were nothing more than a little girl mood he needed to smooth over. I suddenly found it ridiculous. It turned out that in his eyes I had no right to be angry, only the endless roll of the spare tire waiting for scraps of his warmth. Zach, I interrupted, voice cold as ice, you didn't hear me. The withdrawal isn't jealousy, it's because I refuse to keep throwing money at someone who doesn't know its worth. As for your wedding, I paused and enunciated every word. Wish you and Lily 100 years of bliss. I hung up and silenced the phone. Father sighed. Good that you're sure. I'll arrange things with the Hales. You'll meet Adrian next week. I nodded, gaze drifting to the window. The sunlight was perfect, scattering through carved panes into tiny bright pools on the floor. I'd spent 10 years orbiting Zach like a moth around a dim star, burning out all my own heat. Now I would go find a son of my own. Zach's beachfront mansion had been transformed into a dreamscape of white balloons and champagne towers swaying in the sea breeze. His buddies muttered among themselves, eyes darting to the entrance, waiting to see whether the Vance heiress would storm in and steal the groom like in some soap opera. Zach stood at the end of the white carpet in a custom tux, brows knit. Since yesterday my number had gone dead, Vance's equity withdrawal had slammed him like a sledgehammer. He'd assumed I was sulking, until Hale Holdings publicly announced a capital injection into Sterling's biggest competitor, and unease finally pricked him. But he soothed himself, Sophie loved him too much to leave. Right now she was probably hiding in some corner, waiting for him to finish this farce of a 3-way wedding. Lily floated down the aisle in white couture, cheeks flushed with delicate illness, punctuating the walk with tiny coughs that drew sympathetic glances from guests. Just as the priest opened his book, the ballroom doors burst wide and a reporter sprinted in, mic raised. Sam! Jamie! Is your pregnancy announcement real or a stunt scripted to force Ellis out? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Zach's face darkened. Who let you in? Security, get him out. Throw me out, the reporter sneered, flinging a sheaf of papers. Here's Jamie's medical report from a private clinic, no pregnancy at all. But her account did receive $5 million from Emory, memo, performance fee. Pages fluttered to the marble. Lily's face drained to chalk, instinctively she shrank back, but Zach grabbed her wrist. He stooped, snatched a sheet, and read healthy, not pregnant, stamped 3 days earlier. You lied to me? Zach spun, eyes savage. Fake pregnancy? Every wish you talked about, just an act? Lily crumpled, sobbing. Sam, I love you. The $5 million was a moment of confusion. Love me? Zach shook with rage. Abruptly he scanned the pews, Sophie truly wasn't here. He'd counted on my arrival, certain I couldn't leave him, but I had seen through everything and walked away clean. Chaos swallowed the scene, cameras flashing like lightning. Zach stood hollowed out, realizing the woman he'd tossed aside without a thought had been the only light in his life. He dashed out of the mansion like a madman, desperate to find me, only to realize he had no idea where I'd gone. The Vance estate's phone rang unanswered, my cell stayed dead. Like a lost child, he felt, for the first time, the bone-deep panic and regret of a world without me. Zach huddled on the empty living room sofa, fingertips absently tracing the dust on the coffee table frame. Inside the photo, the University Club Fair day. Sophie in a white sundress, flustered in front of the startup booth, the sun gilding her hair tips gold while he grinned, "Relax, I've got you." Back then her eyes had held whole galaxies. When had he grown tired of the view? He rose in a daze, opened the bottom drawer of his study. A velvet box lay there. Flip it open, an unadorned gold band rolled into his palm, the ring she'd first proposed with, tossed aside in the restaurant, its inner rim whisper engraved, Sophie. Memory crashed like a broken dam, the library table where she napped, brow slightly furrowed, him draping his coat across her shoulders, the night of the pitch contest when she squatted on the stairwell landing, face streaked with tears, yet took the tissue and sniffled, "We can win this," her 99th proposal, fingers trembling so hard she hid them, yet voice steady, "Zach, let's get married." That Sophie had been so good. She brought him hot soup when he pulled all-nighters, filed his offhand likes in her phone memo, and never missed a single pickup game. Once during a downpour she waited 3 hours outside the office, shoes and socks soaked, smiling as she handed him still warm bubble tea. She wrecked the kitchen learning his favorite braised pork, blistered by popping oil, then laughed it off. After every rejected proposal she secretly reddened, only to beam the instant he looked her way. And what had he done? Treated her proposals as jokes, her devotion as routine, her love as something to grind under his heel. He assumed Sophie would spin forever, a tireless top orbiting him. Only when she finally walked away did he feel flayed, a raw animal howling with pain. Sophie. He squeezed the plain ring until the metal bit his palm. Every time you said "I love you," I should have answered "me too." Outside the window a downpour blurred the city, just like the day she had waited for him. But this time, no girl with an umbrella would smile through the rain. He finally understood, the moments he'd thrown away held the fiercest, most irreplaceable heart he would ever know. Eastport Convention Center blazed like daylight, hosting the Hale Vance Strategic Marriage Press Conference. I wore the champagne haute couture gown Adrian chose, standing at his side beneath a crystal chandelier volley of flashes. His hand rested light and proper on my waist. Leaning in, he murmured, "Nervous?" I shook my head, taking in the ocean of reporters, my mind calm. Once I thought standing beside Zach was the world, now I know real safety isn't bowing at someone's feet but walking shoulder to shoulder. Adrian's gaze offered candor and respect, none of Zach's patronizing nods. To be treated as an equal, strange, soothing. "Ellis, is this alliance a response to Zach?" a reporter asked, sharp. I accepted the mic, smile impeccable. "Adrian and I are honoring our family's hopes and our own choice. The past is yesterday's news." Halfway through the event, commotion burst at the entrance. Zach shoved past security, hair wild, suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot, a man who hadn't slept in days. "Sophie," he croaked, sprinting for the stage. "Listen to me. Lily lied. I was wrong, come back, let's start over." Cameras swiveled, the room gasping. Adrian eased me behind him, voice icy, "Alex, this is a press event. Leave. I'm talking to Sophie, move." Zach snarled, shoving at Adrian. "Sophie, remember? You swore you'd marry only me. On your 99th proposal I said yes." Looking at this wreck of a man, I felt nothing but quiet closure. I stepped around Adrian to the podium. "Yes, Zach, you did say yes." Hope flared in his eyes. Yet you gave my custom engagement ring to someone else." My voice stayed level. "When you planned a 3-person wedding and told me Lily's wish outweighed a decade of my waiting, did you think I wouldn't mind? Every time you brushed me off, did you think I'd never tire?" I paused, watching the light in his eyes gutter out. "Zach, that 99th proposal begged for a Zach who truly loved me, not one tossing me scraps. The moment you slid that ring onto Lily's finger, the Sophie who loved you died. Marry only you?" I smiled thinly. "That was yesterday's Sophie. The woman you see now is the Vance heiress and Adrian's fiancée." I turned away, joining Adrian. He took my hand, warm and steady. Zach remained motionless, watching us smile at each other, realizing the sun he'd cast aside would never rise for him again. When the security guard stepped forward to escort him out of the venue, I heard his heart-rending wail, but the sound could no longer stir even the faintest ripple inside me. The night was black as ink, Riverdale's neon shattered across the horizon into flecks of gold leaf, and the crystal chandeliers on the yacht deck plated my couture wedding gown with cold light. 10 yards of gown hem sparkled with Paraiba tourmaline, every step kicked up a spray of tiny, gliding rays. This was the dowry sent by Adrian's family, a galaxy woven of pearls and diamonds, brighter than any gift I had ever custom-ordered for Zach in the past decade. While the stylist made the final adjustment to my lace veil, the dressing room door burst open. Zach dripped seawater, his suit trousers caked with silt. He had waded all the way from the shallows, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes bloodshot like a cornered animal. "Sophie!" The wind off the water tore his voice to shreds, carrying a panic I had never heard before. "Stop the ship! You can't leave!" 8 bridesmaids instinctively closed ranks in front of me, but I lifted a hand and signaled them to step back. The sea wind lifted the hem of my couture wedding gown, chiffon and diamonds traced an icy arc across the night as I walked step by step to the edge of the deck and watched him scramble beneath the pier lights. His leather shoes sank into the mud with every stride, splashing greasy water. The ring once given to Lily, those entwined initials SC, had vanished from his hand, leaving only a pale band across the finger. "Zach," my voice traveled through the loudspeakers and across the pier, calm as a weather report, "do you know what this yacht is called?" He jerked his head up, seawater ran off his jawline, spattering the cobblestones. "It's called New Dawn." I brushed the sapphire sewn into my bodice. Adrian had chosen it himself, swearing it matched the dress I wore the first night we met at the charity ball. "Adrian says people should look forward." "Forward?" A laugh rattled out of him, quivering with desperation. "Did you forget? In college you swore we'd build a company together, buy a mansion on the beach, have 3 kids, names already picked. On your 99th proposal you swore you'd never marry anyone but me." The words stabbed into the softest part of memory. I saw myself that night of proposal number 99, waiting 3 hours outside his office, clutching a custom ring, finally whispering the question when he came out exhausted. He rubbed his temples and said, "Fine, we'll get married." I thought it was grace. I didn't know it was the first stitch in a con. "Yes," I swore. I crouched, holding his gaze across the 3-meter gap as the ship's horn blasted, vibrating the air. "But you also swore you'd give me a one-of-a-kind wedding. Yet at your ceremony the bride wasn't me, the ring sat on someone else's finger, and you called it her last wish to have a 3-person wedding." The steadier my voice, the whiter his face became. He reached to clutch my gown hem, but I stepped back out of reach. The seawater had soaked the lower edge of my gown. The chill snapped me fully awake. "Zach," I stared at his reddened eye sockets, suddenly finding the whole scene ridiculous. "Right now you look exactly like you did the time you watched me cry in the stairwell after proposal number 9. Back then, through my tears, I asked if you'd ever marry me. Remember your answer? You said, 'Sophie, could you please grow up and stop playing children's games?'" He froze, lips trembling without a sound, as the yacht began to glide away and the pier lights shrank behind us. "Look," I rose, letting the wind snatch my lace veil, "I have a new couture wedding gown, a new ring, and a yacht named New Dawn." I paused, lifted the tiara from my updo, $10 million antique, its pink diamond once my mother's, and opened my fingers. The tiara traced a perfect arc. Splash, gone into the black water. The diamonds flashed once in the spray, then surrendered to the deep, taking with them the love I had once lowered into the dust. Zach howled, lunging to dive after it, but security pinned him back. His figure dwindled to a smudge on the pier, arms still flailing helplessly. I turned away. Adrian stood behind me, coat off and draped over my shoulder, the warmth of his palm seeping through the fabric. Cold? Not anymore. I gazed at the open sea. The yacht's searchlight sliced the night, and the city's neon ahead looked like a broken dream. "See? The lighthouse at Hale Holdings is already lit, bright and steady." Adrian followed my gaze and curled his fingers through mine. "From now on, your world holds nothing but light." The briny wind buffeted us, and I leaned into his shoulder, feeling the deck under my feet, solid, certain, for the first time. All memories tied to Zach, like that tiara, would lie buried beneath time's waves. This time I am no moth chasing starlight. I have learned that my sun is right here, his hand in mine, steering me toward a true dawn.